Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we're going to talk about one of the most fundamental questions in life. It's one question that everything else hinges on. Your decisions, your lifestyle, your outlook, your future, your nation, your world. Facing this question and answering it honestly will literally affect everything in your life. Today let's ask and answer that fundamental question. Does God exist?
The Trumpet Daily.
Over the past century, we've witnessed an explosion of human knowledge. Man has learned how to manipulate nature, to create technology to the point where we can, for example, broadcast sounds and images recorded from this studio right here in the Midlands and send it right to your television set in your home. Just think about that technology. Think about the images that you're seeing right now, the sounds that you're hearing. Think about the many thousands, perhaps millions of circuits and wires, discs, transistors, cables, and antennas that this very video has gone through for you to view it the way that you're viewing it right now. It's amazing, really. And how does it all happen? It happens because of the human mind. Human beings made all of these elements. Human beings thought out the mining process. They labored over the minerals. They worked together to manufacture the processors. They built the cameras, the towers, the satellites. They planned the network system. Human beings created television. Now, you've probably never seen a camcorder assembly line. You obviously can't see the broadcast signal. And most people never visit the television station that sends out the signal. But we know all of this was created by man. How do we know this? Because we can see the creation. We can feel it. We can hear it. The existence of television is rational, positive proof that a group of people created it. I'd like to give you a quote from this wonderful little booklet, Does God Exist? By Herbert W. Armstrong. We're going to be offering you this booklet free of charge today at no cost or obligation to you, along with this other one here, our awesome Universe Potential. But this first one by Herbert Armstrong, Mr. Armstrong was a great educator who lived through most of the 20th century. And in this booklet, he talks about what goes into making a wristwatch. All the tiny interlocking gears and springs, intricate, precise clockwork in miniature. And then here's the question that Mr. Armstrong asks. You look up into the great vast sky at the master clock of the universe, which never misses a second, the perfect watch by which we must constantly set all our imperfect man-made watches, and you tell me that all of that just happened? There was no great watchmaker, no mastermind thought out and planned the vast universe, brought it into existence or into being, set each star and planet in its own exact place, and started the myriad heavenly bodies coursing through space, each in its prescribed orbit, in its orderly precision? No, it just fashioned itself, put itself together, wound itself up, and started itself running. There was no intelligence, no planning, no creation, no God. Do you say that to me? He asks. If you can look about you and observe how intelligently planned and executed is everything in nature and in plant and animal life, everything we see except the bungling, botching, polluting of God's beautiful handiwork by the clumsy hand of God ignoring and rejecting man, and then say you doubt the existence of an all-wise, all-knowing, all-powerful Creator God, then I do not have much faith either in your rational processes or your sincerity as a seeker of the truth. Can you really look at this great watch that is the universe and say that there was no watchmaker? And say that there was no great creator God, no great mind behind it? That's not even rational to think that way. Notice Psalm chapter 14, here in the book of Psalms. The fool, God says, has said in his heart, there is no God. The fool says this. You don't have to throw out logic to believe in a creator God. You have to throw out logic to reject the creator God, to say that he doesn't exist. How foolish, God says. How foolish to think this. How foolish to think it all just happened. It would be like saying television or this watch on my wrist just appeared. It just happened. It just came out of nothing. There was a great mind behind it. Verse 2 continues, the Lord looked down from heaven upon the children of men to see if there were any that did understand and seek God. They are all gone aside. They are all together become filthy. There is none that does good. No, not one. We've drifted so far from God and from this fundamental truth. I saw an article just the other day, a more recent study about fewer and fewer Americans being certain about God's existence. The more modern we are, the more knowledge we're exposed to, the more sophisticated our creations, our inventions. The more we doubt God, the more we question His existence, the more we scoff at His truth. This actually fulfills Bible prophecy. Read it for yourself in 2 Peter 3 about scoffers coming in the last days. Scoffers in the last days. Mr. Armstrong makes a point in this booklet, Does God Exist? That, look, honest science proves this out. Science has proven that there was a time when matter didn't exist, but it came into existence. It certainly did. Science has no answers for how it came into existence, perhaps a Big Bang or some other explanation. But the Bible is clear. The Bible is emphatic. The Bible says, without hesitation, God made it. God brought it into existence. God created matter. All the elements, look at what Mr. Armstrong says here. Evolution usually postulates that things come about gradually through the slow-moving natural processes of the present. Try to imagine, though, if you can, something coming into existence out of nothing gradually. Can your mind entertain the idea? I think not. No, I think if you're rational, you'll have to accept the fact of a special and necessarily instantaneous creation, and some power or someone had of necessity to do the creating. There's a cause for every effect, he says. And in accepting that inevitable fact, proved by the findings of science, of the existence of that great first cause, you have accepted the fact of the existence and pre-existence of the Creator God. That's right, just as it says in Hebrews 11 and verse 3, the things that are seen, they were made by the invisible God, God who is Spirit. He brought it all into existence. And true and honest science, of course, squares with what the Bible says. Science that knows and understands that at one time matter didn't exist. And then God brought it into existence. The real Big Bang, if we're honest, was a well thought out, a well planned, deliberate course of action on the part of God, who then brought it into existence after who knows how long, the thinking and the planning that went into it. Had it just so. And then God made it. As the scriptures bring out, let's go over to the New Testament and look at Romans 1. This is a passage that we read often. Verse 19, I'll read this from the Revised Standard Version. It says, "For what can be known about God is plain to them, because God has shown it to them. ever since the creation of the world, his invisible nature, namely his eternal power and deity, has been clearly perceived in the things that have been made. So they are without excuse. Creation, in other words, is proof of God's existence. Creation demands that there be a creator. Watches just don't happen. Television equipment doesn't just appear. There was a mind behind it all. And if you open your eyes and look at God's creation, you see his fingerprints everywhere. There's so many examples that we could bring to your attention here. This great creative mind that was behind it all and that makes it all work. The heavens declare God's glory, it says in Psalm 19:1. They certainly do. Even if you leave aside all the ways that man has fouled things up, has polluted this environment, polluted this earth, even with man's fingerprints on this green earth, you can still see God behind it all. Joel Hilliker, in this booklet, Our Awesome Universe Potential, he talks about just how ideal the position is for this earth in this vast universe. You look out into the universe, and of course that's a different subject that we'll get into on some other occasion. Why God made the universe, this vast, limitless universe. But you look up into the heavens and you see these lifeless, dead planets where there is no life. Why is it different here? What makes Earth the exception? The Bible has answers to all of these questions. Verse 21, in Romans 1, it says, because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. They knew, you go back far enough. You go back to the Garden of Eden, to a time when they knew God. But you read there from Genesis 3 how that God took action after Adam and Eve rejected God's authority, after they rejected him as their educator, as their teacher. God sent them forth and cut them off from the tree of life. And man was left to go off and to build up his own civilization without guidance and direction from God, under the influence and sway and direction of the god of this world, Satan the devil. That's what happened there. And we've become vain in our imaginations, as it says here in verse 21. We sure have. Look at the futility in man's thinking, in man's designs. Look at the problems, all of this technology. Man's been able to do some fascinating things, but look at the multiplying evils. Look at the widespread suffering. Look at how many people on earth are unhappy and miserable. Look at how much crime and violence there is. Look at how much hatred and division you see. Even in this very modern, some would say very sophisticated age. Verse 22, it says, professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. So much wisdom, so much scholarly education, and so much foolishness. There is no God. Some of the smartest, most educated minds on this planet insist that there is no watchmaker. It all just kind of happened. Maybe a big bang, a fast-moving bang at the start, and then, since then, a very slow and gradual moving kind of evolution. Verse 23, it says, and change the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like unto corruptible man, and to birds and four-footed beasts and creeping things. Man is, well, he's just about willing to worship anything except for the true God, except for the great Creator God. Making an idol out of anything, all the while rejecting God, even his existence. This little booklet, and it's a short one, but it contains quite a powerful message. Does God exist? Make sure you get the information during the break so that you can request this along with this wonderful booklet, Our Awesome Universe Potential. We'll be right back.
Does God exist? No question could be more fundamental to your life. What choices should you make? What is right? What is wrong? Why is the world the way it is? What is about to happen in the near future? What happens when we die? All of these questions depend on the one fundamental question that most people ignore. Does God exist? Herbert W. Armstrong's free booklet helps you answer and prove the truth for yourself. Request your very own copy right now. Does God Exist by Herbert W. Armstrong. Also request our awesome Universe Potential. Many people today view science as being at odds with the idea of God as designer and creator. But true science poses no threat to this view. In fact, its advancement only confirms it, bringing the perfection of the Creator's designs and the miracle of life more clearly to light. To better understand the inspiring truth about the cosmos, read our free booklet. Both booklets are available at no cost or obligation to you. Does God exist? Did creation come from a creator? If you have proven for yourself that the answer is yes, you have answered the fundamental question of life. And now follows the next logical question. What does that mean for you? To learn what the Bible reveals about your Creator and His purpose for you, click here now or visit our website, thetrumpet.com.
Today we're talking about the existence of God, this fundamental question that impacts everything, really. Does God exist? Because if you prove that to yourself, it changes everything in your life, for your family. We've looked at creation itself being proof of God's existence. I want to follow on from there and show how, as it says over in James 4, you can start turning over there, the existence of law also is proof that there is a lawgiver. There's a lawgiver. Let me start, before I go to James 4, let me just show you this from a modern textbook of sorts. This is obviously someone or some group of men that believe in the theory of evolution. It says this: our own galaxy, which we remember is but a tiny part of the universe, has probably existed a million years, but some progress has been made in attempting to explain how and when the sun and its 9 planets came into being. The study of the solar system gives us at least a clue to the origin of that part of the universe most important to us, the Earth. It says the explanation commonly accepted today is called the hypothesis of dynamic encounter, formulated about 1900 by T.C. Chamberlain and F.R. Moulton of the University of Chicago. In brief, it suggests that our solar system had its birth when the sun was approached by another huge star. The latter, through the operation of the law of gravitation, detached from the sun great masses of flaming gas. The orphan masses from the parent sun gradually cooled and crystallized to become the nuclei of planets. These continued to revolve around the sun, held in their orbits by the gravitational pull of the parent body. It says, finally, the evolution of the Earth to its present state was very gradual. 2 things to take note of there in that text. First of all, you see what's common in so many textbooks like that, based upon the theory of evolution. They talk in terms of, well, this probably happened. We've made some progress along these lines. Here's our attempt to explain how it happened, how it proceeded over millions and millions of years. Lots of probablys, maybes, we think, kind of, sort of. In the Bible, however, you have God's emphatic position. You have God telling you what happened directly, without hesitation. But I think the other thing that's interesting and very revealing in that quote that I just gave to you is in that same quote, you just see it taken for granted, the existence of a solar system, of the law of gravitation. I mean, where did these laws, where did this system, where did this order come from? Did it just happen? Did the law of gravitation just happen? I mean, right there in that quote I gave to you, it talks about flaming gas. It talks about how these gases gradually cooled. In that one quote right there, you hear of a solar system. You hear of definite, unchangeable laws. You hear about laws involving heat, light, and energy. You read about the law of gravitation. The very existence of these laws demands that there was and is a lawgiver. That's what James 4 and verse 12 says. There is one lawgiver who is able to save and to destroy. Who are you that judges another? There's one lawgiver. It's God. God, the existence of law demands that there is a lawgiver. Now I want to take us back to the Old Testament, this time to the first book of the Bible, Genesis chapter 2. And let's just look at one more proof, if we have time. One more proof. This too is discussed in Does God Exist, this booklet that we want you to have free of charge at no cost or obligation to you. Herbert Armstrong's classic, Does God Exist? Now, we've seen already how evolution really offers no explanation for the existence of matter. It offers no explanation for how laws, like the law of gravitation, were established. It offers no explanation for how life got here in the first place. How did it get here in the first place? If life came from the very first simple life forms, to follow what an evolutionist might say or believe, if that's what happened, where did the first simple life forms come from? How did it all start? How was it all brought into existence? Does God exist? Once again, it says no fact of science stands more conclusively proved today. Life cannot come from dead matter. There's not one shred of truth from science to account for the presence of life upon the earth by any means other than a special creation by the great original first cause, God, who is life and the fountain source of all life. It is now absolutely certain, he writes, according to all that can be known from science, according to all that is rational, that it required a real creation to produce life from the not living, organic from inorganic matter. Life comes from life. This is a law proven by science, the law of biogenesis. Life comes from life. Now notice what Genesis 1 and verse 25 says, and God made the beast of the earth after his kind, and the cattle after their kind, and everything that creeps upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good. Yet another profound truth. Right here in Genesis 1, life comes from life. And of course, added to that, you have this additional proof of God creating the kinds, all the different kinds in the animal kingdom. Back to the booklet, the wisest of the ancients did not know what science makes available today. Thus it is demonstrated today that life comes only from life, and that each kind reproduces only after its kind. And so you see that all through God's creation, a powerful, powerful proof of God's existence. The fact that you have all of this variety, all of these kinds. Back to the New Testament. We'll have to hurry here. John chapter 1, the Gospel of John, and see what it says here. Chapter 1, and we'll just read the first 4 verses. It says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. It says, the same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by Him, and without Him was not anything made that was made. In Him, verse 4 says, was life, and the life was the light of men. In God was life. That's talking about self-existing life, inherent. God, who has existed for all eternity, He made matter. He made man out of matter. He breathed into man's nostrils, the breath of life. He created the mind of man, which gives us the godlike power to be able to create, to think, to reason. That's why you see all of these phenomenal inventions, and yet cut off from God's revealed truth, spiritual truth. That's why you see so many problems on earth today, so many evils, and they're multiplying fast. Genesis 1, verse 25 again, just to emphasize here, all of the animals made after their kind. Now, evolution has gone to great lengths, even with massive hoaxes, to try to show that there's this gradual link between all these different species, and they can't find those missing links. They're nowhere to be found. Notice what Mark Nash wrote at thetrumpet.com years ago. It says, one of the easiest facts to discover about evolution is that of the missing links, the evolutionary hypothesis has changed through the years, but it always claims that the animals of today came from predecessors that were different. Here's where the links are missing. No matter what animal is studied, without exception, there's a gap in the records where missing links exist. It says, yet the evolutionists base their conclusions on such connecting links as if they were commonplace in the fossil record. They base their conclusions on things that can't be proven, that haven't been proven. Massive gaps in links. It's not like that with God's Word, as these two wonderful booklets will help you understand. Does God exist? And our awesome universe potential. Make sure you call the operators now to get your free copies. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.